You're listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast with your host, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. As a motivational speaker, Johnny D impacts audiences around the world with his message of living the outstanding life. He's a best-selling author, MC, and two-time Grammy-considered artist. This podcast is a place where Johnny D can introduce you to his outstanding friends and share funny, interesting, and heart-provoking stories. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Here comes your host, Johnny D.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Welcome to this week's Outstanding Life Podcast. I want to say a big hello to all my friends listening on Dirt Road Radio, KYDT 103.1 FM. Today, we have such an inspirational story coming your way. This guy is absolutely amazing. Met him at the PRI show last year. His name is Greg Stelz, and he is the owner of Greg's Speed Shop. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear his story. Greg, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
What is going on, my friend?
Not just working, that's what we do.
Greg, I tell you what, you have such an cool story. I want to start off by, when I first met you, we were talking about your car, but then you told me this story about how you got started, with your speed shop, and you have one of the biggest speed shops in the country, but you didn't always own a speed shop. You were a truck driver. You owned a trucking company.
Yes, sir, I did.
Tell everybody the story of how you got into the trucking business, and then one day you decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to sell everything, and I'm going to start a speed shop. And how'd that go with your wife?
Yeah, not too good. but I'll just give you a quick version. Well, I'll give you a version of it here. Pretty much what happened was my dad, he drove truck for 45 years over the road when I was a kid, so I never wanted to drive a truck. So when I was a younger man, I got into the car world, and I became a very good mechanic, and then I started working at all these body shops, and I became a very good painter, and then I worked at a shop around Chicago area, and I painted BMWs, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Lotuses, Ferraris. I did that every day. I was very good at it. Back then, I couldn't make enough money. And I was young, and my dad said, I'll put you in a truck next week, and, I'll make you $2,500. Well, 27 years later, that's what I did. The whole time I owned my trucking company, though, I was restoring cars. I didn't have to really make a profit because I had a lot of revenue coming in. So, it started out as, just doing it for friends, and then it was customers, and then it got overwhelming because I was running a multi-million-dollar trucking company at the time. And then we ended up upgrading our fleet of trucks. And me and my wife, we basically, a couple $1,000,000, we had to go into debt to upgrade our trucks. And 3 weeks after that, she's like, we need a vacation. We just pretty much signed our life away, And so we were sitting at our end of our driveway because if we planned a trip, we'd never go. So we're sitting in our RV at the end of our driveway, and I said, right or left? And she says, make a right. Let's go north. I want to go to Mackinac Island. So we decided to travel up to Mackinac Island. Went up there, loved it, and it was a pretty quick day when we were up there. So she said, what else do you want to do? And I was like, you know what? I always want to go to the Henry Ford Museum. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So we worked our way down and ended up being at the Henry Ford Museum in the morning time. And the minute I walked into that building, changed my life. Instantly knew what I was going to do the rest of my life. And it had nothing to do with trucks. So, as you would figure, I didn't tell my wife that day because I would have been no good. would have ruined a day for sure. But I was so impressed with the Henry Ford Museum because it has don't really have a lot to do with cars. I mean, it's Ford, but it has more to do about the history of our country, and it really inspired me. And how I explain it to people is, I give in my shop, I give tours every day here, but what I tell them, it's like when I walked in there, it was like when people really find the Lord, that's what it felt like to me when I was in that building. So it was pretty powerful. It was really powerful. And I knew in my heart I had to do this. But so we went through the whole museum and went through everything. And I was very, just excited. And, we left there finally. And I figured, well, we'd just, head back to Wisconsin. And, it's 8 hours from that to our home from there.
Yeah, because it's not far from me. You're about 8.5 hours.
Yeah, so I was like, we'll just, we spent the whole day, so I figured I'd just, go down the road a little bit and we'd pull somewhere over and sleep in the RV, But I drove all the way home. I could not. I knew what I was going to do, and I tried to tell my wife like 10 times on the way home, and I almost got it out a couple times, but I just chickened out because to be honest with you, I was like, do I feel like getting yelled at for the next 8 hours and I've got nowhere to go, or should I wait? And so pretty much what happened then is when we got home, we, got up in the morning and she was cooking breakfast at the time, and I'm kind of, saying, hey, come here, I need to talk to you. And she just wasn't really paying attention to me. And, then finally I was like, because I was ready, I was telling her, and I was like, no, I need to talk to you now. And, I think at first she thought it was something bad that I was going to say. So I think I took her, because then she's like, what, and I was like, no, calm down, just let's hang on. I just told her, I said, listen, when we went to that museum, it changed my life. And, I want to open speed shop up, and I want to build custom cars the rest of my life. And she's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, no. She goes, you couldn't have told me this 3 weeks ago before we signed our life away? I was like, I didn't know until yesterday. But in my heart, I told her, I said, I need you on board with this one. I said, it's something that I have to do, and I don't know why it's so powerful, but I have to do this. And she pretty much said, she wasn't happy. I'm just telling you right now, it probably wasn't a place that you'd want to come over that day. But pretty much like a day later, she said, I'm behind you. If we're doing it, let's do it. And so we started looking for a building, and we found a building in Waupaca, Wisconsin. We live in New London, Wisconsin at the time, and Waupaca's on a major highway. It's in between two, the Fox Valley is, like 400,000 people, and then and that's to the east of us, and on the west of us, there's probably another, there's Stevens Point, Glover area, another, couple 100,000 people that way. So we're like in the middle on a major highway. We found a building that was an old carpet store, and we ended up purchasing it. And, the goal was to make it a little mom and pop store. My wife was going to sell vintage clothing, and I was going to work in cars in the back. Well, after we did that, we bought the building, and that was only a 50 by 100 building. And now we're 35,000 square foot. We only been here 5 years now. March 5th, 2018, I opened the doors. And when I opened the doors, then we only had the 5,000 square foot. I built the other 30,000 square foot on the building.
So your wife was definitely all in then. I mean, you were already all in. For anybody to take a 50 by 100, building and then build it into 35,000 square feet, speed shop. I mean, your wife must be all in now.
Yeah, she's definitely all in. She loves it too. It really changed our life. We're very blessed. We're very fortunate in our life. I quit high school when I was real young, and I was born kind of to fail, and I proved everybody wrong by making a multi-million-dollar business and then giving it up and going into another venture to make another multi-million-dollar business. You pretty much can do whatever you want in life, and my path is here, and it definitely I change people's lives every day here. A car always has a story. It's your dad's car or it's your uncle's car, and I remember being a kid and always wanting to be in them cars and didn't have no money to do that. So I build high-end cars here, but I do focus on the average guy. So I try to help out as much as you can. It costs money to come here, but I don't shoo the smaller jobs away.
Right. Let me ask you this, because there's a lot of people listening right now, and there could be people listening with their fathers. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but you were a troubled kid, right? I mean, you didn't have it all together growing up. And
no, I didn't.
So what was your childhood like? Can you share that with everybody listening? Because they hear this now of how successful you are and what you have built, not once, but twice, the great marriage and everything else. But what was Greg like as a child?
Well, as a child, I was, I was a kind of a lost kid. My parents were divorced when I was really young. Drugs and alcohol was in my lifestyle. I grew up around that kind of stuff, and I was, like I said, I was kind of born to fail. The drinking stuff that just runs in the family, and that's normal. It's a normal thing, and a lot of people have that too. But I just as a kid, I just didn't want to fall down that path, and I did for a while. I mean, because I thought that was normal. And I struggled for not saying I did some drugs, but it mainly was the drinking for me. And when I decided to quit drinking, so I've been sober 14 years, May 13th this year.
Congratulations on that.
14 years, and it 100% changed my life. And I'm telling you right now, I never did an AA. I never did any of that stuff. In my mind, I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done living that way. And it definitely 100% changed my life. And very, like I said, I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate to be where I'm sitting today. If it wasn't for my wife, I'd probably be in prison. I was doing some bad things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. You
were, did I hear right or read right? But you were in a motorcycle club. You were an outlaw. Is that true?
We ran. I wasn't in the club. We just ran around with a lot of guys that were. So we did a lot of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been doing in different clubs.
Yeah.
That we'd ride with.
Let me ask you this, because so many of us, especially as men, right? I've started and sold, a couple companies myself. And when I know that the exact feeling you have 25 years ago, when I gave up everything to be a speaker, it was like the best day of my life, but it was also the next 2 years I was broke. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you sold the company, started Greg's Speed Shop. How long did it take you to start making money again? I mean, because you don't just jump into it, in Wisconsin and start making tons of money. Right.
And we're finally starting to make money. I've been here 5 years. And the reason is because I grew so fast, and they just valued my place at like $3.7 million, and most of that I put in cash. So, I don't know. I'm a risk taker, and I just knew that I had to do it when I started. And, our shop is more like a NASCAR shop. It's clean. We want people to feel comfortable when they come here. In our front area, we have, a clothing store. We have a Pontiac dealership built in here. We have a Texaco gas station from the 40s. Everything has an upstairs in the first 5,000 square foot. We have a movie theater. Everything that inside of the building, if you went on Facebook or Instagram, pretty much Facebook, you can see it more. But, you can see the inside of the building. And I built all the stuff, everything you see here. I do all the concrete work. I do all the lighting. I build all the buildings. I turn a group of guys that work for me. We turn them all into carpenters. We're a team here. So, and I guess what it comes down to, I'm cheap. So I like to do everything. There's somebody's got to be able to do it. So I do it all.
And everybody listening right now, please go to gregspeedshop.com. I mean, because he's being so humble about this, but his speed shop is absolutely amazing. I mean, there is facades of everything there. And I want to ask you, there's signs everywhere. There's all kinds of stuff inside your shop. Where did you get all that stuff? Were you a collector beforehand?
Yeah. So to go step my story back up, I ended up when I was a kid. I ended up living with my parents are divorced, and I lived with my mom. But then I was in a lot of trouble. So I think about age 13, I went to my dad's, and then that was down by Eden, Wisconsin, and I was there, and I was always collecting stuff and bringing stuff home, and he would, he'd be yelling at me for dragging all this crap home all the time. And I remember one time he was yelling at me on the table because I had these valve covers sitting on the table, and about this junk I'm always bringing home. So he told me to go throw them out, and so I went and hid them in my room. I got the valve covers hanging in my shop to this day.
Wow, that is so cool.
So I never threw them out. And my dad passed away a couple of years ago, but he would come here, and he worked at my trucking company also and helped me get that going. But he worked at the speed shop here too when I was out traveling the country. He'd kind of run the front, and he just said, just all the years you collecting this crap, I was mad all the time, but you finally had a place to put it. So I've been doing it for a long time. I'll be 51 at the end of the month, and when I was young, 13, 14 years old, I see value in things, so I'd collect them, and now I get to display it.
Greg, was part of the deal with your wife when you start building the speed shop to have her own clothing store inside the shop? You kind of touched on it because the clothing store itself is absolutely amazing. It's so cool.
Yeah, she wanted to contribute. She's like, well, what am I supposed to do if we sell the trucking company? What am I supposed to do? And I was like, well, you can just, you love to pin up stuff and in clothing, and, you like doing that. Well, I'll just build you a store inside of the building. So that's what I did. And, she's really into that stuff. She's really into the branding of Greg Speed Shop now. So she's really working with new people, kind of more branding us to get us out there. We're really young in the car world. I've built cars my whole life, but we're really young in the car world compared to like a Chip Foose and Dave Kindig. They've been doing it 35 years. So their brand is there. So we got to make our brand out as quick as possible. That's what we're trying to do. So she's focusing more on that stuff right now.
That's so awesome. Greg, you said that every family has a story. Can you share a story with me? And it doesn't have to be, I'm visualizing this right now, and just, you are such a nice guy. And I know that there are people that probably come to your shop and they just want a brake job. There's other people that want to spend, $100,000, on their vehicle. But is there one vehicle that really stands out right now while we're talking that sticks out, that you helped somebody and they left away, crying, or they got, emotional, or because I know the kind of guy that you are.
I cry like a baby here, I'm telling you. But I got a perfect example one, and I got these. I mean, I have multiple ones of similar stories to this, but just one that sticks out to me because it was the first one that had happened. Was an old timer guy came in here. He lived here in Wapaka, right, the town that we're at right now. And he said that he had a VW in Colorado that his I think it was his brothers, and then when they were kids, they rode around in it and blah 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 blah. And he passed away, and his wife is going to give him the vehicle, but he needs it picked up. And I'm like, well, you just have to call a transporter, blah blah blah. He says, well, they don't want to do it because the trees grew around it. It has to be all cut out. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
oh boy, so my dad was here, and the guy left, and I said, well, I'll try to figure it out. My dad's like, well, I'll go get it. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to have to cut the trees down. Oh, I'll do it. So I was like, all right. I said, well, we'll figure out how much the field's going to cost and go get it. And so my dad said he'd get it, so we made a deal with the guy. My dad went out and got it, and he called me out there, and he said, I am not going to be able to do this. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I got to get a wrecker service here. I mean, you wouldn't believe what the deal is, And I was like, all right, just get the wrecker service, get it out, and then get it towed home. So he ended up doing that. We got it back home, and the guy wanted to drop off his house, so we dropped it off his house. And then about 4 months later, his son calls me, and he says, hey, Greg, I'd like to talk to you about this VW, bus. I'd like to get it in. And he says, my dad's really sick, and I want to be able to get this thing running before he passes. I was like, I just talked to your dad, He just happened to stop in. He's like, well, he lies, so he's not going to tell you the truth. He's really sick. And I'm like, all right, I says, we'll take a look at it. I said, bring it on in. So we brought it in. He says, I just need it running and driving so we can do this. And I was like, all right. So I get it running and driving. We get everybody in the crew here working on it so we can get it done. And it was a lot of work. And we got it done, and we want to go deliver it to his house. So we go deliver it, and I have one of my guys go to the door, and the old guy answered the door, and this guy's telling me he's got a couple weeks to live, and I'm like, my guy calls me and says, hey, I'm talking to the old guy right now, and he said there ain't nothing wrong with him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was like, this guy just snowballed me, And so we dropped it off or whatever, So I'm like, okay. So I called the guy, and I'm like, hey, your dad said there's nothing wrong with him. He said, my dad's a liar. He goes, I was like, well, somebody needs to pay me now because now I'm kind of upset because I, did this and got it done and got it running for you, and now it sounds like I just got snowed, And he's like, Greg, I'm telling you the truth. So the guy pays me, whatever, and then about 2 weeks later, he come in and he said, him and his whole family did, thanked us, and he passed away. And it was pretty cool.
Wow. And Greg, everybody listening right now, I mean, obviously that's an incredible story, but watching you, the stage that I was on at the PRI show, your car, the Joker, was right next to the stage, and you and your wife and your group of people were there. And, that's the kind of person you are. I never saw you sit down. Matter of fact, the one time that I saw you sit down was when I finally came over to talk to you. And I felt so bad because you had just sat down. But that's the kind of person you are. You will talk to everybody, especially when it's something that you enjoy, but you're also a great listener. And something that you like to do is give back to the Rawhide Boys Ranch there in Wisconsin. Talk a little bit about that and what that means to you.
Yeah, we're doing a book right now. With the book just got finished. We're just editing it, but I had some major people read the book already, and they said the book is very, very good. And one of them reached out to Rawhide, and Rawhide is for troubled boys or troubled kids. Our ranch here in London, and Bart Starr is actually one of the guys who started the boys ranch there, or he was part of it. And they reached out and they said they want to be part of the book. If they can do anything for us, they want to be able to help. And to me, being a troubled kid myself, that's kind of what the book is about. I think anybody that reads it can get something out of it. Pretty much what it is life sucks for a lot of us, and sometimes we don't think we can make it out of it. But I'm a proven fact guy that you can dig and get out of anything you need to be, and that's kind of the message I want to tell people. It doesn't matter what people think. You put your mind to it, you can change your life.
Greg, did you ever think in a million years, I mean, you're 51 years old now, you've been through literally hell and back. Do you ever just look in the mirror and say, holy crap, I'm a multi-time business owner, but when you throw the name author behind you, that's pretty darn cool. Do you think to yourself, in a million years, I never thought I would be an author.
No, me, I can't believe it sometimes. I really can't. I mean, from where I came from to get to where I am today, I'm very, like I said, very fortunate, very blessed. If the Lord wasn't in my life, I know I wouldn't get where I am. And like I said, I can't believe it sometimes. Definitely.
Talk a little bit about that. I know that me and you have had a great conversation, and there are times that we as humans, we fall away from the Lord. Yes.
And that's what I did when I was younger. My mom made me go to church all the time, and just being like anybody else when they're younger. You went to church. We were just going there to hang out with our buddies. I always believed in the Lord, but I kind of, I guess in my early 20s, I kind of lost a little bit of that, and I just didn't really didn't go to church anymore. We didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I believed, but you doubt it. And then after my dad passed, I had something happen to me that came to me and told me I was get back with the Lord, and now our whole family's deep into that right now. And,
did I just hear you say your father told you that?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about something coming full circle.
Yep.
Wow.
So I knew that we needed to do it. So we started going back to church, and there was a church that me and my wife got married at, and we went there. And then my younger daughter, she went to church she'd go to church with us too, but she went to church with her friend one day, and then she came back and she said, "Dad, will you come to my church? Or come to go check this church out." I'm like, "No, I go to this church, and this is the way it is." And but I thought about it for a while, and my wife said, our young daughter wants us to go to church to go check it out where she goes, or where she went with her friend. And so I said, "I'll go, but if they're trying to sell me some agenda, I'm leaving." And because some of them do.
Right.
And so me and my wife went, and that's where we go.
That is so cool.
And it's because our daughter took us there. And I left the church that I've been going for many, many years.
That is so cool. People would say that you're a character, wouldn't they? Would that be right for me to say?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, a good character, but and I say that, Greg, to lead into this. There's a character even bigger than you, and you're a big dude. and the character is your race car, the Joker.
Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit about the Joker, and like, is that something that you always had? Did you have the Joker while you were trucking? Or did the Joker come on later on when you had the speed shop? When and how did the Joker become the Joker for you?
I think it was 2014 when I found the car. 2014 or 13, I can't quite remember it offhand right now. But I found the car on Craigslist. I owned a trucking company at that time. I circle track raced for many years. Stock car modified and dirt late models, and then I was done racing, but I was always in the fast cars, so I found this car on Craigslist, and it was in Missouri, and I called the guy up, and he wasn't too nice on the phone. He says, "I'm sick of you people calling on Craigslist, and nobody shows up, and blah, 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 and I'm not going to sell it." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." I just hung the phone up. Back then, everybody looked on Craigslist, and what I would do, I was sitting at the trucking company, I'd run copies off of the ad, and I'd put them in a folder, to go back to it later, And one day I was cleaning my desk off probably about 2 months later, and I was throwing the other cars that I called on or I didn't want, and all of a sudden I come across the car again, and I called him, and he said he'd sell it, and I said, "Well, I'm 11 hours away," so he didn't like that at all, and I said, I'll pay you exactly what you want, and I'll come down and get it. So I drove all the way down to Missouri, ended up getting the car, and I walked in, and I asked the guy right away, "Do you have the title for it?" And he said, "Yeah." And I checked the VIN number, make sure that was right. And I got it on my trailer. And once I got it on my trailer, I asked him, I was like, "Why didn't you put this on eBay or something, you know?" He's like, I just needed it sold. I'm going through a divorce. And so that's why he sold it. And that's why he was kind of grumpy too. And I brought it home, and I was going to paint it and had all these thinking about what I was going to do to this car. And then when I got it home, I really started looking at it. I'm like, man, this almost looks like a real race car. Maybe this was done a long time ago. So I started doing a little research on it. I heard a guy named Dan Smith. It said Dan Smith on the roof. And this guy named Dan Smith built the car. So I've seen some pictures of it. It always said the Joker on it, the pictures that I've seen. So then when I put a motor in, I started racing at some small events just to go to. And I started taking these events, and then all of a sudden one day I was in a lineup in Byron, Illinois, and a guy named Dan Smith handed me a driver's license, and I'm pointing to the car, and he's like, "Yeah, that's me." So then he started telling me about the car, and he said that he found it on the side of a barn. He used to drive to work every day. One day he drove by, and he seen this 57 Pontiac, two-door hardtop sitting outside, and it had a tow bar bolted on the front of it. So he stopped and he talked to the old timer, and the guy said that he used to race it in the 60s, and it was just time for it to get out of here. And so then Dan ended up buying the car, and then he took it to his shop, and then he started doing, getting ready to put it back on the road. So he put the Joker on it, because it actually didn't have the Joker on it in the beginning. Dan actually put that on there. And then he put like Smith Brothers Racing and a couple other things that he had on it. Once he did, he was telling me that he did all that stuff, and then he ended up selling to the guy I bought it from. So when I asked Dan, when you drove it, how fast did you go? That's what I wanted to know. And he's like, he never drove it. He said, I built the car, never drove it. And you're the only guy who's ever drove it with the Joker on the side of it.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, yeah, that's super cool, So the Joker name is definitely me. But now the car is, made hundreds of magazines, made a National Pontiac magazine. I built the fiberglass front end on it. They didn't make fiberglass pieces for Pontiacs. So we started with the 57 Chevy front end and then cut it all up and built it into a Pontiac. We got 57 Chevy doors on it. Then we had to move them around a little bit, cut them up to fit better than, they're close. A 57 Chevy is close, but not quite right. And we built all that stuff, and then we patinaed it just like the car originally looked. But as of right now, I'm 1/10 off the world record as natural aspirated 4-speed, 10-inch wide tires, no shift light, no computers on board car. We're 1/10 of a second off the world record right now.
Wow. And for those of you listening, when you go to Greg's Speed Shop, you'll see the car. I mean, there's something. I'm around race cars every single weekend. There is something special about the Joker. I mean, it has a life of its own. I mean, don't you agree, Greg?
Yeah, it does. Everybody says that it's like. I've had a lot of people say this to me. It's like the General Lee or the kid car. Or when we were kids, that's the kind of feeling they get when they look at the car.
Yes.
Which I'm like super excited about it. My goal is right now. I just started racing with the Southeast Gassers. Southeast Gassers are the fastest gassers in the country, and they're out of North Carolina, and they're a great group of guys. I race with the Brew City Gassers in Wisconsin, because that's a local club that I race with here. But I can't be the fastest in the country unless I race the fastest. So that's what I do now, and it's all southern states that we race. I leave for North Carolina next week on Wednesday. We race a track called Shady Side in Shelby, North Carolina. Like I said, my goal right now is definitely to win some races in the Southeast Gassers, but my goal is to win that world record.
What do you have for an engine inside that?
It's weight by cubic inch, so I weigh 2750, so I run a 477 big block Chevy. I actually shifted at 9,200 RPM, and has an old bread box intake on it. The carburetors have to be in line. They have to be 4150s. old school looking, So everything looks old school on the car, even though it's state of the art.
You have 2 seats in the front of that thing.
Yes.
Have you taken anybody for a ride? And if so, did they almost crap themselves?
Yes, I do take them for a ride, and pretty much they do. per rules, because back in the day in '67, everybody had 2 seats. So that is a rule that you have to have the other seat in the car.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's like I said, it's the Southeast Gassers. You go to one of their events, it's unbelievable. That's all I can tell you. I'm so addicted to it that I can't even tell you how bad I'm addicted to it. It's unbelievable.
I just think it's crazy just sitting here. I mean, you have this huge company that you're running. You have cars in and out of that place. And then that's not enough for you. So you want to take off every weekend and go racing. Your wife must be like, hey, Greg, slow down, man.
Yeah, sometimes she does. She knows I'm on full. I'm all in. When I do something, I'm all in. It's just like, I know a lot of people, like right now, they're doubting me that I'm going to win. With these guys are IRA or NHRA Pro Mod drivers. A lot of them are professional race car drivers that they don't drive professional anymore, and they get in this old car. Every car has to have a 4-speed. Every car has to be weight by cubic inch. Every car has to have a straight axle, and every car, no computers, no shift light, 10-inch wide tires, or 10 and a half. But, these cars are violent. The wheels, when you launch, the wheels got to be 15 inches off the ground when you launched. It's not like a new style cars, Pro Mods, all the tires are on the ground. They try to make it rules from 1967. All I can say is if you went to one event, and they travel 10 different states in the South, Indiana, Ohio's closest that we're up here to the north, to the Midwest. But you go to one of their events and you feel like you're in 1967.
Wow, clothes and everything, right?
Yeah. So my wife is actually my backup girl. And, besides looking beautiful, she's actually doing something in there. Because these guys race, I race A-Gas, which is the fastest group that they have. If you lose, you go home. There's no buying back in. There's no second round. There's no nothing. So when I race next week, I'll qualify Saturday morning. I get 2 qualifying runs, one in the right lane, one in the left lane. Whatever my fastest time is, that's where it puts me on the board. And then my first round, whoever I race, if I red light or if I lose, I go home. Now, in my hauler, the closest race to me is going to be 8 hours. All these other ones are 17, 19 hours to get to. What it costs me to go down there, I wouldn't go that far if I don't think I could win. But this is real racing. There's no bracket racing. Not saying bracket racing's bad. I'm just saying that this is the way it was done in 1967, and that's, like I said, it's unbelievable. You go to one of their events, like I said, Southeast Gassers, look them up. You'll be impressed.
That's so cool. So do you still work on your car?
I only work on my car.
No kidding.
I got a couple. I got some of my guys in my shop. I let do some things, but I'm the guy that I keep all the knowledge in my head. I kind of know what I want, and I tell my guys what I'm doing, but I do know a lot from the racing world I've been in. And I'm not scared to reach out to anybody in the racing world, and I usually get the best on board when I do something. So I'll get the guys who are killing it in the shock game, Spencer Motorsports out of North Carolina, so I call them. The guys that kill it with the clutches is Ram Clutches right now, so I call them. And then I deal with guys that, to go to that next level, to be able to win, that's what you have to do.
With your speed shop as big as it is, 33,000 square feet, you said?
35.
35,000 square feet. Do you also, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, you know what, I'm looking for an old car, my first one, I want to buy one with my son, my daughter, I want that relationship.
Yep,
do you actually sell cars too?
Yeah, we do sell cars, but we sell cars, but we're not really too deep into selling cars. But we have people, so I've been open for 5 years, over 150,000 people have been through these stores. Everybody that comes in here tells me about a car, or they got a car for sale. So a lot of times we'd start a list, and then when people call looking for cars, we give them their numbers, and we just do that as common courtesy.
Okay.
To help them. But we do take cars on assignments, and some cars. When we came over here, I think I had like 40 some cars. I whittled it down so I don't own so many cars. It's for other people to enjoy them. All we're doing is hanging on to this car for the next person, and then they get to build them memories with their family with it.
Absolutely.
The only one I don't think I'll ever sell, or I know I won't sell, is the Joker. And I hope my kids don't either. But I know I'll never sell the car, because the car means a lot to me. It's put me on floors like where I met you at the PRI show. They called me to bring the car there, which is super cool.
Greg, what is one car? I know Joker's your favorite, and it always will, and you'll die with that darn thing. But
Yep.
But let me ask you this. Is there still one car or truck out there that you still want to put your hands on, that you want to work on? Everybody has one of those. And
I do, and mine's going to surprise you what mine is.
What's that?
Mine will be a Duesenberg.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I have some friends. I love these old cars from the 30s. And I have some friends that live in Las Vegas, and they've owned quite a few Duesenbergs. And they still own a couple of them. And it's just something about that car. I mean, it was so ahead of its time, and they're beautiful. And but some of them cars are $5 million.
Right.
So I mean, it's one that I want. Still want one.
Now,
I don't need it. I just want.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. No, absolutely. What more? Like, what other goals do you have for yourself, for your family, and for your speed shop? I mean, you've been open 5 years. You're doing amazing work. What are your goals? My goals.
So since I've been open, I've met almost every celebrity in the car world. From Chip Foose, he's been to my shop. Joe and Amanda Martin from Iron Resurrection has been here. Emily Reeves and Aaron from Flying Sparks Garage. Joe Coddington, she's like a mom to me. That was Boyd Coddington's wife. Gene Winfield, biggest customizer in the world. Ian Russell and his wife Jamie. I've had a lot of people in here, and I've met so many celebrities. It's absolutely crazy. But right now is what I focus on is I have to get this check mark of being the fastest gasser in the world. And once I get that, then my goals are going to be, I want to win the Grand National Roadster Show in Pomona, California, which is the MBR. And then I want to win SEMA, and I want to win the Riddler. And you being from Detroit area, the Riddler is the biggest award that you can win. Yeah. Matter of fact, Pete Tundis, the owner of the Autorama, is a really good friend of mine. I spent some time down there this year, and it's just cool. And I was going to ask you about that. Have you had any cars in your shop or that you put your hands on in your employees that have won awards? We have. So, we only been in business for 5 years. Last year was the first time we ever showed a car, and that was at the World of Wheels in Milwaukee, and we ended up winning it. Then we ended up, this year, we had another car we took down there, and we ended up getting second in that. And then we had another car in there that we did a bunch of work on for another customer. We ended up winning with that car and the Crystal Award for the best of the show, the best car in the building. And then we end up having a motorcycle that we built a sidecar for a guy's dog, and it was made out of a whiskey barrel. And we end up winning first place with that also. So that's the only two events I ever showed at, and every time we have won so far.
That is so cool. Let me ask you this. For the people out there listening that are not car people, they're listening to your story saying, wow, you know what I mean? I want to get a little bit more into cars. I want to know more about cars. Let's just take the Riddler Award. Tell the listeners right now how many millions of dollars it would take and some of these people pay to have cars done.
$3 to $5 million.
Yeah, $3 to $5 million. Some of these people, I mean,
so if any of your listeners want to win that, they can call me.
Greg, well, I mean, it's not something that it's going to be in your shop for 6 weeks. I mean, it's going to be in your shop for 3 years.
Yeah. I know, like I said, I know all these builders, and the Ring Brothers, they're another group of guys that are in Wisconsin here that really super nice guys. And they have won a lot of awards all over the place, and their work is just phenomenal. And when you watch what they do, I mean, they got the clientele that that really helps them get to that level, and that's what we need to focus on. I'll never forget the average guy because that's who I am. But to get to the level to win these big awards and shows, you definitely need a clientele that want to win them also, because your client makes you how good you are.
100%. Let me ask you this: with a shop 35,000 square feet, how many employees do you have?
10.
10 employees, and this is for me. I just want to know: do you plan on building even more?
Yeah, I have a feeling that well, I think in the beginning I was going to do a lot more here, but I think we might add. I think we'll probably shut her off around the 50,000 square foot, but then after that, we're going to end up building other buildings. We're going to build 2 more in Wisconsin, one up by Hudson, and then we want to build one down by the state line, Kenosha, Racine area, somewhere in there. Maybe towards Milwaukee a little more, but some where we can find some land and do the same thing. We want to have Greg's speed shops all over the country, like a franchise. I'm going to say 25 of them. If we get 10, we get 10.
That's so neat.
Aim big, and if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But you gotta have them goals. That's what gets me going every morning.
Greg, with only a few minutes left in the show, again, you gave up everything to tell your wife, hey, we're going to sell everything and start a speed shop. You were a troubled kid that made it. You were in the drugs and alcohol and overcame it. You've done so well for yourself. What advice could you give the men and women listening right now that, one, they might be not struggling with anything except for they want to follow a dream, but they're scared. They might be fighting with something, but they need that kick in the butt. You have the next couple minutes, Greg, and if you can, I want you to inspire the people listening right now that they can overcome whatever they want to overcome.
I just honestly believe that, as humans, we don't focus on, we worry about a lot of garbage. What you have to do is start telling yourself that you can do anything that you want. And you honestly can. When you were a kid, when you wanted to do something, you really believed you could do it. And as adults, we start second guessing ourselves. So you have to get back to that mindset that if you want to do something, if it's being a police officer to being a banker or owning your own company, you can do it, and you just have to do it. For me, what I do personally is every morning I write my goals down and things. I map my day out, everything that I'm going to do today, and I try to check them off the list. I don't always get them off the list every day, but then the next day I start over and okay, these are the 3 things I want to accomplish because I didn't get them done yesterday, and then we're the first 3 things that I do. And ever since I've been doing that really, really helps me to keep my mind focused, to get things done. Because when you check it off the list, you feel like, oh my God, I did something. And you just got to keep pushing. And the people that get in your life that say you can't do something, you just can't have around negative people. You got to have people behind you and that believe in you, and you just got to keep digging. And I believe anybody can do anything they want in this world. And for me, it's having the Lord in my life is major. And staying away from the drugs and alcohol is, if you get the Lord in your life, you won't have to worry so much about that because you'll just quit yourself.
Greg, you're amazing, man. You're a rock star. And that's the owner of Greg's Speed Shop. I mean, they do full restorations, full custom fab, custom frames, airbags, motors, transmissions, suspensions, wiring, all your mechanical needs. And listen, if you're a mom that just needs her brakes done, take it down to Greg's Speed Shop because you'll handle it, won't you, Greg?
Yes, we will.
And listen, I mean, what a cool waiting room. That's what I always think about. Hey, man, if I want to take my car somewhere, I mean, you literally can hang out for hours inside your speed shop.
Yeah, that's kind of why we did the speed. That's why it's called Greg's Speed Shop and what I thought was back in the day, a speed shop in the 60s, 50s and 60s and 70s. That's where people went and hung out and talked.
Yes.
And so even though, I mean, we sell parts and stuff here, but we mainly do build custom cars. But I use the Speed Shop name because I wanted people to come hang out. And that's kind of what we do. We get old timers come here and drink coffee and talk crap, and I love it.
That's awesome. And how can people follow you on social media again?
You can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. It's just Greg Speed Shop.
And your stuff is awesome. Your TikTok page is awesome. I don't know who's doing the work for you, or if you and your wife are doing it.
My daughter. I'm doing it. My daughter made me do it.
No, I mean your stuff is awesome. I love it, man. So I can't thank you enough for hanging out. And anytime you want to come back on the show, if there's something you want to talk about, man, give us a call. And again, do you have a phone number that people can reach the shop, or should they just connect with you on social? They
can do it on social, but you call 920-867-2939. We're open, 9 to 5 every day.
Greg, thank you so much, man. Again, I appreciate all your time, your great story, and thanks for the inspiration today.
All right, thanks, Johnny.
I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Thank you for listening to this week's Outstanding Life podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Are you planning a conference, convention, meeting, assembly, or any live event that needs a guest speaker? I would love to be a part of it. For more information, visit motivationalcowboy.com.
Thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life podcast. Follow Johnny D on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, advertise, or would like to make a donation, please visit motivationalcowboy.com. And remember to have an outstanding day.